All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to slice through all the crypto hype and talk about a technology that could totally change how we as citizens trust our own governments. Yep, we're talking about blockchain. I want you to just think about that for a second. What if the most important documents in your life, your vote, the deed to your home, your private health records, were impossible to forge, impossible to secretly change, and you could prove they were legitimate in an instant? Well, that's the big, bold promise of bringing blockchain into the public sector. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll nail down what we're even talking about. Then, we'll look back at how governments first reacted. Spoiler, they were nervous. We'll see how things moved from just an idea to actual projects. Then, we'll peek into the future before finally getting real about the huge obstacles that are still in the way.
Okay, so first things first, what do we actually mean by government blockchain? Let's just forget all the technical jargon for a minute and use a simple analogy.
Honestly, the basic idea is pretty straightforward. Instead of some central database locked away in a government building, picture a digital notebook. But here's the catch. Everyone on the network has an identical copy. So when a new transaction is added, say a property sale, it's written in everybody's notebook at the same time. To fake a record, you wouldn't just have to change one book, you'd have to find and change every single copy out there, all at once without anyone noticing. It's practically impossible. The trust isn't in an institution, it's baked right into the math. And you can see right away this is about way more than just digital money. You can apply this idea to basically any kind of public record where integrity is everything. We're talking e-voting, land registries, birth certificates, business licenses, even things like public health data and tax records. The list just goes on and on.
But let's be real. Governments didn't just jump on board immediately. Not even close. The early days were filled with a whole lot of skepticism.
If you look back between 2013 and 2016, the whole conversation was dominated by Bitcoin. And as it got more popular, governments got more worried. They heard about all these potential security risks, like double spending, which is basically the digital equivalent of counterfeiting. The entire focus was on the danger, not on the potential opportunity for making public services better. And this quote from back in 2016, it just perfectly captures that vibe. When your number one job is to protect citizens' data, this new, wild, decentralized technology felt like a massive risk. Security wasn't just one of the concerns, it was pretty much the only concern. But then the tide started to turn. Slowly but surely, governments began to look past the cryptocurrency hype and started asking, hey, what could this underlying technology do for us, for public services? And here's why that shift happened. Look at the difference. The old way is centralized. One agency holds all the keys. That's a single target for hackers, and it's also a single point for error or fraud. With blockchain, you flip that model on its head. It's decentralized. There's no single master copy to attack. That makes it incredibly tamper-proof. You don't have to trust a person or an institution, you just have to trust the system itself. And pretty soon, this wasn't just a theory anymore. Look at these trailblazers. You've got Estonia, a digital powerhouse, using it to lock down over 1 million health records. South Korea tried it out for e-voting in local elections. Right here in the US, Illinois started a big initiative for things like land records. Even physical stuff, like Abu Dhabi tracking where its oil goes, started getting put on a blockchain. And that Illinois project, it wasn't just some small test run. No, they went big. They launched 5 separate pilot projects to really kick the tires and see what this tech could do. When you see that level of investment, you know governments were starting to take this very, very seriously. So that brings us to today, and more importantly, to tomorrow. Because the future of this technology in government isn't just about protecting old records. It's about building a brand new foundation for other futuristic tech. I want you to think about it like building blocks. Blockchain is the base layer, that secure, trusted, shared notebook we talked about. But then, on top of that secure base, you can start plugging in other cool stuff, like AI to analyze data, or the Internet of Things to get real-time info from sensors all over a city. And what you get is the potential for truly smart, efficient, and transparent public services. And some of the ideas being kicked around are just mind-blowing. Imagine being able to securely share patient data for global clinical trials during a pandemic. Or building entire smart cities from the ground up, like Dubai is trying to do. Or Germany using it to handle complex things like urban planning and asylum claims. The possibilities really start to open up.
Okay, but, and you knew there was a but coming, we have to be realistic. This isn't some magic bullet. There are some massive hurdles to clear. A real gauntlet this tech has to run through before it goes mainstream.
So let's look at the big three roadblocks. First, cost. It might surprise you, but running these systems can actually be more expensive than the cloud solutions we have now. Second, scalability. Can a blockchain really handle the millions of transactions a day that a government needs? That's a huge open question. And finally, interoperability. How do you get the blockchain for health records to talk to the one for driver's licenses? It's a huge technical puzzle that nobody has quite solved yet.
And beyond the tech problems, you have a whole other set of headaches for policymakers. The laws just haven't caught up. How do you square a public, permanent ledger with privacy laws like GDPR? Who's actually in control of a decentralized system? And what about future threats like quantum computers that could one day crack today's security? These are tough, thorny questions.
So I guess the main takeaway is this. Blockchain isn't just a new piece of software you can install. To really make it work, you have to completely rethink how government itself operates, the processes, the laws, and even the fundamental role of government in a world where trust is built by code. And that leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Is this the technology that finally builds a new foundation of public trust? Or is it a revolutionary idea that just showed up to the party a little too early? It seems the future of how we trust our institutions is still being written. And that's our explainer for today.